Hello YouTube, today I'm going to show you how to create a graph on Excel for Mac. As you can see, I have a Mac here, and if you want to learn how to do this on PC, I would recommend using another or seeing another video, because Excel on Mac is quite a bit different than Excel on PC, even though they have the same fundamental characteristics. So first, what you want to do is you want to launch Excel. So click Excel. I am currently running Excel Mac 2008. There's a newer version 2011, but it's very similar to what I have here, so you could use this video for either or. Now, this is how Excel appears. What I want to do first is go up to this toolbar, and in this blank area just right click, or click with two fingers on your Mac. You want to go over to Toolbars and select Formatting Toolbar. When you select this, a new toolbar will appear, which is very helpful instead of going into different sub-menus and trying to find what you're looking for. It basically has all the main functions of Excel right here. So what you first want to do to create your graph is you're going to have some data to input. You're going to have a horizontal axis and a vertical axis on your graph. So let's make up some numbers for a horizontal axis right now. 0. Okay, there's our data for our horizontal axis. You always put the data for the horizontal axis in column A, and the data for vertical axes in B, C, D, E, and so on. Now, I'm going to create a graph that has 3 different lines on it. So the reason why I left a space up here is so I can input the name of the line. So we could do line 1, line 2, and line 3. Okay, now that that's done, like I said, B, C, D, E, and so on are the numbers that are going to be on your vertical axis. So let me make up some coordinates for lines 1, 2, and 3. And then for line 3, we'll do 4, 8, 12, 15, 19, 21. Okay, so now we have all our data inputted into Excel. Now, Excel uses ordered pairs to graph your information. So for example, for line 1, when x is 0, y is going to equal 2, so you have the ordered pair 0, 2. And then you're going to have 1, 4, 2, 5, and so on. Now, for when you get lines 2 and 3, it's going to still go off the same horizontal axis, but instead of having 0, 2 as you are going to have in line 1 for your first point, you're going to have 0, 3. Then you're going to have 1, 5, 2, 6. And then for line 3, you'll have 0, 4, 1, 8, 2, 12, and so on. So now that all our data is inputted and we have named our lines, you want to click in A1, click and hold, and drag until you have all your information selected. Now what you want to do is you want to go into charts. You click charts and a bunch of different charts appear. You have different options for area, bar, bubble graph, column, donut, line, pie, radar, stock, surface, and XY scatter graphs. The graph that I'm going to choose, which I think is the easiest, is XY scatter plot. Now, there's 5 different choices that you have for scatter plot. You have marked scatter, which shows just points, smooth marked scatter, which shows points connected by curved lines. You have smooth line scatter, which shows curved lines. You have straight marked scatter, which shows the points and straight lines connecting them. And then straight line scatter is just straight lines without showing any points. I like doing straight marked scatter because it shows the points and you can hover over them and it'll tell you what point it is, which I will show you later. So we'll select this one, and it takes Excel a second or two to create the graph. It's already going to come up with a good range and scale so that you don't have to make it on your own. And also, the way I labeled the lines when up here, it shows in the legend of the graph, so everything's already basically labeled except for the axes and the title. When you label the axes and the title, you want to go up to the very first toolbar and click Toolbox. Now, as long as you have this graph selected, it'll automatically pop up this way with all these different graph and chart options. What I want to first do is make this graph a little bigger so it's easier to see. Let's make that a little smaller. Okay, so we have our graph, and we want to do a chart title. So you have this chart options pull down menu, and then it says titles. You have chart title, horizontal axis, and vertical axis. Let's start with the chart title. Where you type it in is the box right below it. Let's call it time versus distance. And as I type it, it automatically appears in the graph. You do not need to press enter to make the changes final, just you can move on to the next thing. So let's move on to horizontal axis, and we can call that time. And it also appears, and then let's move to vertical, and we'll label that one distance. Okay, now as you can see, these axes labels are really small. So what you want to do is you want to click on the word, and a box will appear around it. And you want to go up to the second toolbar and change the font size. I just do this so it's easier to read. Let's change it to 14. And then do the same for distance. 14. So now that we have our axes labeled and the title, you can basically stop there if you want, and you have your graph done. You can also, right below the titles, where I typed in the titles, there's axes. You don't really want to change this because this one makes the graph 3D and stuff like that, which you just want to leave it like that, so just leave that alone. Now grid lines, you can add grid lines if you want to make the graph easier to read. But I usually just leave it the way it is so it doesn't look over cluttered. But let's say I want to add some major vertical lines. You just click that and automatically add them. There's also minor lines, which will split the squares into even parts so it's easier to read. So I did both of those, so it goes like 0, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and then 1. And then over here it goes 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now I usually don't use these just because it kind of clutters up the graph, so I'm just going to leave it like this because it's really easy to read. And what I was talking about earlier, when you hover over a point, see, when I hover, I'm not clicking on the point, but when I hover over it, when my pointer hovers over it, it says series line 3.5, and that gives you an ordered pair 521, which is where it is on the graph. And it'll do that for all the points. And the rest of this formatting palette, you have stuff like chart style and chart data. I would make sure this is in column, and then chart style, you don't really need to mess around with any of that because that'll just change the way the points look or the colors of the graph. You can change that later. And then this will also change the way the points look, so I don't really worry about any of that because I think what Excel does in the first place is fine. So this is basically how you create a graph on Excel when you have different sets of points with multiple lines on one graph. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, just leave a comment below, or if you want me to show you how to make any other graph on Excel, just leave a comment below. Please, thank you for watching this video, and Please stay tuned for more videos. Thank you.